Missed yesterday. We were getting work done on the roof because there were raccoons living in the roof, and, and it started leaking. All this stuff happened. Anyway, the that's done. The roof's patched, painted, all that good stuff. So we're back. We're live. A couple minutes late, but the notification will go out, of course, in the Discord. Maybe we'll post it to Instagram today. I don't know. I'm feeling kind of chill. I didn't really have anything particularly queued up because I've just been awake. I've been awake for a number of nights now. I've slept a little, but not much. Feel the stress of the times in my bones. So I figured it's a good topic, right? Like spirituality, distress. What is it? There's so much going on in the news right now. For those who follow the news, and for those who don't follow the news, it will affect your lives one way or another. It's gonna come into play. These are big things. Usually the most of the news is gossip. It's like the celebrity pages type shit, right? But these things that hit again, this thing happens whenever something big hits. I can't sleep. I can't sleep after I find out about it, but I can't sleep for some reason, which leads me to being up late reading the news. And this happened before COVID hit. It's just a weird thing. It's happened many times. And the thing that I was kind of more put in touch with this time was just the various escalation of things and returning of things. I actually want to check the planets and see what retrogrades are looking like, because there's a returning that's coming. And what I mean is, okay, the Taliban, for those who don't follow the news, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan in about a week, 10 days since the U.S. left. It's going to have far-reaching consequences. We can fluff that out and talk about it if you guys want, but it's certainly been dominating my attention. The second thing that is happening is the mask debate is resurfacing, of course, right? As kids are going back to school, that whole masking, anti-masking, the infighting is resurfacing, okay? The third thing that is happening is the vaccine itself is resurfacing, which is kind of fueling the mask debate, right? We have this Delta variant, and by the way, from my research on the CDC site, it is not the last variant by any means. There's like 12 variants. So this Delta variant is coming through and is causing, just looking at the statistics, a trend, a spike worse than the original. So, ergo, what does that probably mean? I could see more lockdowns. Absolutely. Why do I think that? Because we've been saying this since fucking before the first spike, right? We've been saying end of summer, late August, early September is coming again, right? Everybody who's been watching me talk has been watching me say that, and not just me, Cosmic. Many spiritualists I know have kind of been on that same tune and page. We felt it, right? Sister Coyote, good morning. Good to see you. Good to see everybody. Again, sorry about yesterday, getting the roof repaired. A lot of noises, but here we are. So anyway, with, again, a COVID spike happening, potential lockdowns again, the mask debate resurfacing. Oh, and then today the Biden administration saying that everyone, vaccinated or unvaccinated, needs more vaccines. So the vaccine debate is now going to resurface on a different playing field, and I'm already hearing people saying, wait a second. I got the first ones, but I'm not getting another vaccine. Are you fucking crazy? Hey, Snow off the Bluff. Buenos dias. Adalolo Dixon. Hey, greetings. Good to see you. Welcome to the conversation. So, and again, this is not me taking a stance on masks or vaccines or any of that. I don't cover that stuff, and you guys know it. But this is me observing all these frictions that have happened, and where the pressure was taken off. Now they're all happening at the same time. The Afghanistan thing is going to have ripples. It's going to have political ripples in the U.S., which, again, that's like the gossip thing. Who cares about that? It's going to have major ripples worldwide. Significant. So there you go, right? I'm saying the same thing here in the chat. I'm not getting a booster, right? So that debate is reignited with more complexity. Same with the mask debate, right? Reignited with more complexity. Same with Afghanistan, reignited with more complexity. And I expect that these things are going to cascade into other areas of our lives. So I believe we are re-entering a period of extreme distress. It's very easy now that things have loosened up and everyone's going to restaurants and da-da-da-da-da. Not me, but I think normies are. That the distress has, for the most part, passed, and it's frankly natural to forget the extreme distress that we have all been under. Madison D'Amico, thank you for the like. The intense, like, emotional, psychological stress that we were under, say, 1 year ago, even before 1 year ago, right? Like, a year and 2 months ago, like before we all got back out in the streets for one reason or another, when things are really just bottled up, this stress was extreme. And the doom scrolling and all the social distress, and I've already caught myself. I was stress eating yesterday, and I was like, wait a second. I got on top of this. This is like over a year ago. So what I mean to say is that I think all these patterns are being reignited in us. And look, as I've said to a couple people today, if I were going to wage war and destroy America, first I would give them a virus, and then I would make them all fight each other about stupid social politics, and then I would hack their systems for more than a year, all their government systems, and then I would take down their electric grid in a couple places, and then I would incite more social unrest, and then I would give them a worse strain of the virus, and all this stuff. And whether there's someone doing that, or someone's doing that, or it just happened by fucking accident, it sure did happen. It sure did happen, and is happening. So, hang on to your hats, folks, because I don't... I'm not that old and wise, but in my lifetime and in my study of things, it's never been quite like this. And why I have concerns about Afghanistan is to talk about that just a little bit more to give people context. There's some sense that the old factions that existed 20 years ago are going to come... Are reformed, right? The Taliban has control of Afghanistan. The Northern Alliance has reformed in the north with like the son of the last one. We're chill. We're not involved. That's how it's going to be. I have a very strong feeling we're going to see renewed terror, morale among terrorist factions who are like, "Fuck yeah, we kick those guys out of here. We're winning. Don't stop when you're ahead." We're going to probably see terrorist attacks. I think as a result of that, we're going to see the U.S. become further embroiled, even if we do withdraw now. Although, there were 2,500 troops. We pulled all those troops out. That was the big goal. We've already sent 6,000 back, and we're not pulled out yet. That's all happened in the past 2 weeks. So whether we're leaving or not is unclear. That said, I do think there's going to be a prolonged engagement there one way or the other. I think that will then have ripple effects, because when we have a war on terror and a war on the virus, we've had a war on terror and we've had a war on the virus. War on terror and a war on the virus at the same time is, I think, going to be phenomenally stressful to the individual psyche, to the public psyche. I think it's a very less fun time ahead. I think that's kind of it. Is like we get to do the whole game, a new game plus, as they call it in video game parlance, right? Get to do the whole game again, harder, and then less fun. So I think that's the first message I want to really convey to everyone, is to prepare for that. Remember what ended up challenging you when it got to its hardest last time, and take your steps to figure out how you can support yourself in those things. If it happens, when it happens again, worse, right? And when I say worse, again, this compounded thing of, well, look, and on top of that, we have the moratorium on evictions is up. People owe like 1.5 years to 2 years of back rent now. And obviously people don't have that money. So I think what may happen is we may have an environment, and thanks to my brother for kind of putting this to my attention, we may have an environment where, like, if you join the military, you get housing. Your family gets housing and shit, home-based housing. We have an environment where that's encouraged. Could be an interesting time. Could be a very scary time for a lot of reasons, right? Like, I think, again, this whole age we've entered into, is a period of dynamic change, is a period of things realigning. We saw it on small scales last summer, right? We saw it happening around racial equity. We saw it happening around policing. We saw these realignments beginning. At the same time, it's happening on larger scales. It's just slower. and it's harder to notice, right? Just like the Earth spinning is hard to notice. We don't feel it. We have to observe the sun, but if we have a ball spinning, we notice it, right? Larger scale is harder to notice because we're relatively have little view of it. So as the world turns, as things spin around us, the changes in the air, changes in the season, and the bigger changes are coming. And so the economic changes are coming. I think it's very plausible that the U.S. dollar as the global currency could be undermined in the next 10 to 15 years, possibly even sooner than that. Either by the Chinese yuan. I mean, that's the real thing, the Chinese yuan. Things are going to get very interesting, right? Now maybe we have some better view of why billionaires were making sure that their space flights worked a couple weeks ago, right? Because you're going to want that option. If you can get it, you're going to want that option. And again, I don't think that there's going to be... I think any country would be completely insane to try to invade the United States of America. It would be a catastrophic military mistake. We are by far the most armed population in the world. As much as we fight, we will all agree that invaders will be dealt with, and I think it would be very bad for any country to try a land invasion of the United States. That said, I think it would be probably the easiest thing for them to try to get us to all fight each other in a series of increasingly divisive socio-political events and stories and false narratives and true narratives and all that stuff interspersed, and manipulate us to fight each other while things fall apart, kind of slowly in the background. I think it's a solid plan. That's probably how I'd go about that. And again, whether someone has actually decided to do that, I don't know anything about that, but I'll tell you, it's what's fucking happening. And if it's happening by accident, that's even worse if you ask me. So with all this said, what does this mean for a spiritual person? What does this mean for a spiritual practice in these times, right? I spent, as I was following the news of Afghanistan Sunday night into Monday, and everybody, I know a lot of people who have just been feeling it in their bones. This one's big. This one's not like normal news. And as I've sat with it, I was really distressed at first. And then what came really clear is, no. This is exactly it. Right? Why is it that we're in a time now when so many healers and so many people seeking truth and so many people speaking truth and so many guides have come forth to incarnate now in a ridiculous proportion, right? Like all these fields that we all research together and practice in together are having such this renaissance just across media. And so why is that? And I would put forth that the reason that all that's happening is for the days that are ahead here. I think we have been perhaps sold on the hope that with all this glorious wisdom and knowledge and understanding and all these elements that we've been able to preserve and pass along more and more in our current times, I think we've hoped to have this, bring this illumination, this brightness to the world. I don't mean in an Illuminati sense, but, like change things for the good and make them good. And in contemplating the forthcoming distress, it occurred to me that we probably don't get to make them good. We actually probably are all here and are probably more needed to keep things from going totally bad, to keep the flames of hope and of faith from dying out completely. I think this becomes the baseline of what a healer's responsibility is in a time of extreme crisis. It's like triage, right? Just keep everyone alive. Rather than focusing on getting anyone perfect and healing anyone 100%, if you're in a major casualty event, right? Mass. You just keep everyone alive. Let someone later worry about getting them the rest to perfection. Just keep them from dying. I've been using the metaphor of coals a lot. You know, you don't need to blow on a fire when it's going good at all. But when that thing's dying, you better keep your breath on it or you're going to lose it. And it's going to be extremely hard to get it back then. Extremely hard. Much, much harder to start a fire than keep one going, even from a teeny ember. And I think we're entering a period now where that is what we were called to do. That is what we're going to be challenged to do in ourselves and in the world to come. I think in the generations to follow, I think there's a much more beautiful time than we have experienced in our lives or will experience in our lives. I think within a few generations, we will see a much more just, equitable, peaceful, enlightened, less mercenary, capitalistic world. But I think we have some great, great, great hardships ahead. I think things certainly get worse before they get better, and I don't know that our lifetimes take us out the other end. Given how, then again, maybe we'll get the Peter Thiel blood transfusions and we'll all live to be old like the rich folks. Maybe that's why they want to live so long. In those times to come, and look, I believe, I'm not trying to paint a picture of abject darkness that and the wickedness will spread across the land and there will be no prosperity. But I want everybody who I can speak to be aware of and prepared for the possibility, the eventuality, the looming and self-evident reality that things are changing beneath our very feet. The status of the United States in the world has just changed dramatically for the first time since before World War I. Nobody alive knows what this is like. We are in untrod territory here, and that's weird. That's weird. So then again, in all of this, what does this mean for us? This means that we have a few core responsibilities, and they are responsibilities, especially in the fact that, like, for me, the whole thing of all this thought and realization was like, oh, this is a bummer. This is not going to be fun. That's like the fun part. We don't get to do it right now. The fun part of spirituality, personal exploration, and growth, intuitive growth, and reconciling traumas. Even I'll call the fun part. Well, maybe I'll put reconciling traumas in what we got to do ahead. Because what we have now before us is to bear a great deal. To bear a great deal, both in terms of like to withstand to bear in both senses, right? To bear suffering and to bear as in a pillar or column bears weight. It is necessary for us to prepare ourselves for that transition. Does it mean that we can't keep growing and exploring and all that stuff? No, it does. We can keep doing that, but we have a higher obligation that's beginning to form. And so when it comes down to prioritizing, we're going to have to prioritizing developing the capabilities we need so that we can meet those obligations. And hopefully if those capabilities are perfectly developed, then actually as we're dealing with the looming reality where we're applying those capabilities, well, then it's all good. Then we can keep our exploration going. But we're going to be doing a lot less of guiding people, include ourselves and others, and a lot more of like sustaining, supporting, keeping the faith alive in people, ourselves and others. So we talk a little bit about doing that, what that requires, what that entails, what that looks like. One of the first things that I've encountered, and I'm thinking of people who have tried to maintain a spiritual life in times of extreme distress, Holocaust, things like that. Worst case scenario, I think much worse than the scenario we're going into by far. But, if we can work from that premise, we could probably make it apply in a less stressful situation. Routine becomes fundamental. And routine's always important in spiritual practice, but I think in times of other options and goodness and all that, routine often feels like obligation, right? I want to go outside. I don't want to clean my altar. In times of distress, in times of the times we have ahead, routine becomes an anchor, becomes a foundation, becomes something we can come back to. It becomes a touch point to normal. And so, and I'm not saying that like everyone perfect your routine right now, but if you don't have a routine around your spiritual practice, it's something that you should begin to develop. I don't think a complex routine is advisable. I think a simple routine performed regularly and with focused attention is at least as good as a complex, actually significantly better than a complex routine performed in any way other, irregularly or without focused attention or whatever. And I think complex routines, because how difficult it is to apply focused attention for any amount of time, I think the more complex a routine is, the more difficult it is to apply focused attention throughout its entirety. And if that is and that, why do it the difficult way, right? Keep everything manageable. It's about quantity over, it's about quality over quantity in some sense, and it's about quantity over quality in another. Well, it's always about quality, right? It's about the quality of your work, not how much work you're doing. So it's quality over quantity, and the regularity of that is important, because what we're talking about here, big picture, is sustaining faith, kindling faith. When we look at how faith is played out in areas that are significantly less stable and comfortable than the time and place that we've been living in, the main elements that come forth are recognition. This is why recognition is so important in any faith, in any folk practice, in any ancient practice. The recognition of everything that's happened that's been fulfilled. Meaning, when there's times of trouble, there's not an emphasis on everybody here's dying. It's so-and-so didn't die. That gets recognized in a big public way. It's necessary to keep faith alive, because bringing those things to the forefront, bringing those occurrences to the forefront, it gets ridiculous, but the more people who have faith in it, the more probable they become. I know that's insane, but it's how it works. And again, back to that principle of, it's much easier to keep, as difficult as it may be to keep a fire going, it's much easier than starting it again. Presuming you're in the wilderness. Obviously, if you're, you got fire making gear, it's not a big problem. Good morning, David Chen. Thank you for joining us. Let's see what Snow Off the Bluff has. I see a period of Balkan type free for all ethnic fighting and or big corporations, rich people forming private armies if our state declines, possibly foreign companies doing what ours did to Latin America, slavery. I think here's the thing, Snow Off the Bluff. I think things have shifted to a more subtle paradigm. I think that you don't have to force people to do things. You can trick people to do things more nowadays. And I think that's kind of what's happening. And so I think it's going to be a slow kind of I don't think it's going to be like suddenly boots on the ground, you guys line up, hands against the wall, anything like that. Slow, in the background, changing, small, incremental, iterative changes. NyQuil, welcome, bro. No, rough start all around, man. I think that's the name of the game now, man. And that's why we're talking about this today, bro. It's actually perfect. Like, this is a time where we need to lean into our spirit. Sometimes we lean into our spirituality for growth. Sometimes we lean into spirituality for support. And this is definitely a time to lean into our spirituality for support and to realize that we're going to be in that supportive capacity for others. And that's different than assisting others in growth. It's a lot less fun. It's a lot more troubling and burdensome. So the first thing we talked about was like working on a spiritual routine. Again, it does not need to be complicated. It shouldn't be complicated. It should just be done with focus and faith. And the second thing is building those simple gratitudes and recognitions. It's not just about being grateful. It's about publicly showing people something that inspires faith. That's the true power of it. It's about how many more people have their faith sustained and sparked and kept alive. Naturally, if you have something miraculous happen, you're going to be grateful. Or if you hear of someone has something miraculous, or anyone who has something miraculous happen to them, you're going to recognize, wow, holy shit. The reason to make the recognition of those miracles very public and very prominent is not to inspire jealousy in other people, but to bolster or add a little heat to their faith that miracles are happening and that not all is lost. As soon as anyone thinks all is lost, all is lost. And as soon as most people think all is lost, things are mostly lost. And that's not something that's again, it's harder to start that fire than to keep it going. So keeping those embers of faith alive in ourselves and being these centers for that is where it starts. Doing that for other people and engaging in that as our purpose, sustaining them becomes the harder challenge, and balancing those two in ourselves and in others. So let's see what we got here. As an extremely private person, that would be difficult for me. And then there's the part about becoming a target and the evil eye and all that. Yeah. There is all that stuff. I'm not saying that you need to post it on social media. In fact, I don't think that's even right. But I'm saying that at this point, if you've ever thought you were a healer, or you were called to help, or you were called to be here for people, or guide people, now is the time. Now, or in the time to come. So prepare to shift gears. And if you're not ready, you're not going to be ready. That's the one thing I can guarantee everyone is no one is ready and no one's going to be ready. That's step one. This is going to be a test. And a test means asking you to do things you're not sure if you can do, or that the universe isn't sure that you can do. And you have to prove yourself. That's what we will all be doing. The whole world is coming to do. So examples then of, sharing miracles is setting up shrines. You can do it anonymously, right? You set up a shrine to whatever and just publicly state, thank you, whatever, for this. No one needs to know about it. No one needs to know who did it, just that it was done. Does that make some sense, Sister Coyote? Because I'm with you on that. Like, and frankly, in a lot of places, that's where you would just go out and erect a shrine overnight and, make that a public acknowledgement for people to encounter. And the fact that someone else went through that inspires faith in others. You don't have to like, put out a poster with your face on it. But letting people know is important. And again, that, to your point, or maybe parallel to your point, does that diminish the power it gives you? Does that diminish how it feeds you, your growth? Absolutely. Yes. But this is the time to feed others. And if you have to feed others what you were going to eat, then you're going to be a little leaner. And that's why this time is going to be challenging. And I'm not telling anyone that they must do this. I think whether you want to or not, you're going to be doing this, is what I'm saying. Like, law of gravity, not law of speed limit, as I like to say. I think it's advisable to prepare for this because it's extremely likely you're going to be forced into situations where you're going to have to do this. And if you don't want to prepare, that's cool. And if you don't have to, then cool, good for you. But I think it's probably going to be really necessary. I think it's the only reason, again, why so many of us are alive right now, and there's such a flowering of the discussion of these arts and sciences, and different healing modalities are coming to the fore, and all this stuff. It wouldn't make sense to have all this stuff and all these ways of healing and helping to continue in a time of peace, joy, and prosperity. I realize that so much of capitalism is based on selling people out of fear, but nonetheless, I think universally we were given this in order to prepare for the times to come. Robert Paulson 7, I love that, right? I love that if not me, then who, right? One of the heaviest hitting bit of wisdom that was given to me was, if not me, then who? 1,000%, if not me, then who? As I like to say, if I look around and say, oh man, here's something, someone should do something about this, whatever this is, and I look around and I don't see anybody else who immediately is like more qualified than me to do it, then exactly, and if not me, then who? It's got to be me. You know, if someone's choking, is there a doctor? Is there a doctor? If there's a doctor, I'm going to let the doctor handle it. But if there's not a doctor, I'm not going to let that person choke. That's not how that's supposed to go. Although, technically, with civil lawsuits and stuff, it's better for you to let that person choke. That's apparently... Talk to your lawyer about that. That's apparently the case. Spiritually speaking, for whatever reason in America, we don't have liability. So, feel free to intercede. No one's going to sue you for... spiritual, maybe they'll sue you for emotional trauma, but frankly, I don't think the court systems are going to have the capacity. Look, I think sometimes are ahead that will challenge what just about everybody believes in. I think Good Samaritan covers you if you're not a professional, Sister Coyote. Definitely not with saving people. No, if someone gets shot and you apply to their gunshot wound, you tend to their gunshot wound and they either have permanent harm or they die. If they have permanent harm, they can sue you, and if they die, their family can sue you, and that shit happens. And if you take a gunshot, if you take a class on attending, gunshot trauma, they'll tell you do not save a stranger. Do not save a stranger. It's not worth it. Maybe in some states, but definitely that's like whenever I've taken those trauma classes, they're like, do not do this to strangers. Or if you do, like, have your mask on and don't stick around. Get the hell out of there. Save a life and get the hell out of there. But don't stick around to get acknowledged. Yeah, I think what we have ahead then is a strange period where institutional trust and things like that they're already at an all-time low. So it's hard to say we'll reach an all-time low, and I'm well aware that they're at an all-time low. They're going low. I mean, look, the President of the United States just fucked up really bad in front of the whole world. And then, while he was on vacation, this all happened. Didn't come back from vacation. Came back from vacation for a couple hours to hop on TV and say, listen, I take full responsibility for this. This is everyone else's fault. It's his fault, this fault, and that fault, and that fault. I stand squarely behind this. And then went back the fuck on vacation. Institutional trust is, and this was the better guy, right? Institutional trust is bottoming out. The vaccine, now you need more vaccine. Now trust in the vaccine's bottoming out. Things are going down, 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 down. In terms of trust and faith, what do people... Look, if people have trust and faith in nothing, the world is too terrifying to comprehend. Is the world terrifying objectively? It is, but nonetheless, we actually can make good order and sense of it and be functional in it as long as we have trust and faith. Right? All government is a system of trust and faith. All money is a system of trust and faith. You can call it magic, you can call it whatever. But the point being, if you have trust and faith in the government, it works. If you don't, it fucking disappears overnight. And I think, let's see. So Aaron Moshe says, in Facebook chat, I took care of a gunshot victim outside of my apartment back in April. It wasn't my jurisdiction, but I wasn't going to let them bleed out either. Yeah, that's my thing. Like, so you're a hospital corpsman in the Navy. Yeah, so you have some more credentials. They say EMTs, it's okay, right? But if you're just a civilian who has the skills, that you shouldn't intervene because you could get sued, especially gunshots. And like I said, I mean, I just won't stick around for anyone to... If you stick around and take the credit, you're going to get fucked. Is basically what they tell you, right? Save the person, write the time on the tourniquet, call 911, and get out of there as soon as you see the ambulance show up, is the advice that I've gotten. Of course, I'm not an expert in this stuff, so there you go. So with institutional trust bottoming out, people are going to have... That's where faith falls down, right? People get up and do what doesn't meet their long-term needs because they have faith that by meeting whatever short-term needs, they'll meet their long-term needs. What do I mean? People will go work a job every day that crushes their soul because they have faith that it's going to give them some long-term security, and usually that has worked out for the past while in America. If that didn't work out, if people weren't sure about that, and now you see so many people not going to work, if people weren't sure about that, what would happen then? They wouldn't go to work. They wouldn't go to work. Things get tricky. I think we have a lot of shifting currents that are socially wise. You know, it's far more likely that a young person will become a social media influencer than have a job at a fast food place right now. Being in the military can suck, but it brings security. And that's why a lot of people who are facing eviction right now are going to join up, and that's why I think we're going to go back over there. I think that's for sure. I think the war in Afghanistan is over, but the war in the the Islamic Emirates of Afghanistan is just beginning. I think this is a bad rerun, man. It's a reboot. They know it works, and we're gonna get it again. But I think they think they know it works, but things are a little different now. It's not going to play the same. I think we're facing something different, and I think the domestic implications of it. Look, I don't know how many of you guys were around for like Desert Storm or for any of that stuff, but like all of America was glued. That's when like 24-hour cable news first started. All of America was glued to their fucking TVs, watching the war go. We're winning, hooray, hooray. Even still, like when they did the Bin Laden raid and all that stuff, everybody in America was watching this shit. Now also think about quarantine, how everybody in America was watching shit. Now imagine the two of those at the same time. Holy shit. Everybody's going to be tuned into this shit, man. I think it's going to utterly consume the psyche. And, you know, I know that they don't teach 1984 and Brave New World to anyone anymore, but when I was in school, we still learned that shit because America was still a little bit... frankly, America was still a little bit cockier. But with Brave New World type shit, the endless war, that kind of justifying it, yeah, I think we got this going on. Robert Paulson, and now they have the whole new arsenal of top tier gear. It's not top tier, of course, but it's way better than what they had. You know, they went from 20-year-old AKs to 2-year-old ARs. That ain't bad. And night vision and all, you know, those guys didn't even have body armor. Straight up, they're just out there in their robes with AKs. Now they have like armor and helmets, comms, and whether that brings them on technological parity with the U.S. military or not, the morale boost for those guys, holy shit. They are on cloud. They think again, whether they actually are or not, they have every motive in the world internally, especially because they're a faith-based organization, you might say, to be like, God is definitely on our side right now. Let us keep going. And so, the opposite of that, the collapse of morale, if you're not at all called to be a healer or be of assistance, then just survive, dude. Just survive. Don't be prepared to rely on yourself. I think that's what it comes down to, is either be prepared for people to rely on you or be prepared to rely on yourself. I think that's the even-handed way of approaching it. And probably for each of us, it's a spectrum, right? It's not an either-or. There's total independence, and then on the other hand, there's total interdependence, and then there's a spectrum. I will rely on other people for the preparation of food and clothing or shelter or whatever, but I will meet my other needs. Or I'm going to rely on myself for all those things, and I'll meet my entertainment needs with other people, or my whatever that may be. It's going to be a different calculus for everybody. But I think to be of assistance to those who are called, I think it's the same. It's the same thing. Let me reread that. So what do you do? What do you suggest for someone to do who is not called to be a healer to be of assistance? Oh, so you want to be of assistance, but you're not called to be a healer. Then provide food and clothing and shelter and all the other. The more of each other's needs that we can meet without reliance on things that might lose ground quickly, the more resilient we'll be. The more resilient we are, the more faith we'll have in each other. And the more faith we have in each other, the more foundation. Because look, having faith in the seen is much easier than faith in the unseen, right? If I say, listen, I'm going to give you $100,000. Don't worry about it. I got it. It's hard to have faith in that. If I say, here's a check with your name on it for $100,000 and I give it to you, and you call the bank and verify that it's real, you're going to have a lot more faith in that, right? So this is the manifestation of faithfulness in our lives, in our interactions, in our goals, in our priorities, will inspire faith. To me, it's all about inspiring faith, keeping faith alive. And that's, again, every tradition that I've studied, no matter, who or what, at the end of the day, that's what they emphasize. Just have faith, have faith, have faith. Faith is what works. Everything else is dressing. And so, whatever ways we can, because when faith in the material completely collapses, some people, I feel like, and again, this is also on a spectrum, of course. There's kind of two extremes of when the faith in the material collapses. On the one hand, you can completely cling to faith in the immaterial, or you can just abandon faith. It's like faith in the material is here, faith in the immaterial is here, because faith in the material requires less faith, faith in the material requires more faith, and then all the way here is no faith at all. And so you're going to go one way or the other, and I think the tendency, the gravity of the moment is towards no faith, right? The gravity of the moment is towards, because, look, I truly believe this period of revelation is upon us. And I don't mean that in terms of apocalyptic battle, although I would not be surprised if the forces of Christianity and the forces of Islam do battle in the Middle East in the years to come. That seems like what a bunch of people want. And they're kind of in the position to make what they want happen, so who am I to stop them? But I think the revelation, the revealing, the reevaluation, you might say, of things is upon us and is fucking just getting started. If you thought last summer was a eye-opener, everything's coming back but more complex, right? COVID's coming back but more complex. The vaccine's coming back but more complex. The mask debate's coming back but more complex. The Taliban's coming back but more complex. Everything's coming back now but more complex. And the more complex is, it's not as cut and dry. Every light has shadow. Every shadow has a light casting it. Things are going to get real weird in terms of certainty. And when certainty is weird, faith is very difficult, because faith is a blind certainty in something. So this becomes our challenge, our calling, our, I don't want to say obligation, but our niche, right? Our niche, our place is sustaining faith. And so as people lose trust in institutions, how can we teach them to have more trust in people? As people lose a sense of security, how can we teach them to feel more safe and secure? As people lose one, how do we give them the other? It's very much a matter of enabling independence through interdependence. Aaron Moshe in Facebook chat. I remember being a kid and seeing all the post-apocalyptic movies and seeing that everyone in the military was well off and everyone else was screwed. I was thinking then, if I want to be well off, I would need to be in the military. Well, I think comfortable in terms of lifestyle, for sure. Like, I don't know, do they own those homes and stuff like that, or does the military own it? You know what I mean? Are they really well off? But comfortable, for sure. And I think that's what's coming, right? I think everyone facing evictions, the economic squeeze that we're having, the mounting pressure in the Middle East, all this stuff is going to accumulate to driving. Also, Congress just passed bipartisan. They added, they can draft females, right? Before it was a young man, 18 to 25. Now male and female, 18 to 25, you can be drafted. Also, I don't know if you guys, I presume no one paid attention to this. About 6 months ago, the Marines totally restructured everything to create an expeditionary force for island hopping, giving the specific example of the South China Sea. things are changing all around us, and the implications of those things are vast. By the way, Smokey Bear 1015, thank you for that follow. Greatly appreciated. So with all this said, we are in a place and a time where we have the greatest abundance of resources to support ourselves in all this, to support our health. I mean, shit, man, if you're living 1,000 years ago, you basically ate like rats and fucking whatever wheat you can get. You know what I mean? We have, if you want to learn to grow your own food, it has never been easier to get the knowledge and resources to do that, and to do it sustainably, right? Composting your own fertilizer and all that. If you want to learn to make your own clothes, it has never been easier to do that. All these things, it has never been easier. And so I would give people the suggestion that where you are called, is it making shoes? Is it making books? Is it smithing? Is it mining? But whatever it is, whatever you're called to do, start to learn to do it. Start to learn to do it. And start to learn to do it on a scale that's more than just for yourself. Right? It's one thing to learn to cook for yourself. It's another thing to learn to cook for a household. It's another thing to learn to cook for 40 or 50 people. Just start to learn to do it. And look, if things stay fine, you have a great new skill. Maybe you can get a side hustle off it. You know, maybe you can start smithing on the weekends or catering or whatever the fuck. But start to learn to do it. I don't think you need to know how to do it next week. I think you're going to want to know how to do it in a few years. So let's see what we got here. People get socialism with communism. We need better social programs to help people in need that actually want help. Well, I think Aaron Moshe, that's presuming that I have very little faith in institutions already, right? So I believe that these many institutions in which I have very little faith don't give a shit what we need. They give a shit about what they can sell to us, whether they're for-profit, non-profit, what have you, right? I think there's the end game is always keep myself employed until I die, more than achieve this cause. It's sell this cause in order to keep myself employed and my employees employed and da 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 da. That's the nonprofit space for you. And so that's when we kind of put all our social services or lean increasingly into NGOs, things like that. It does nothing more than to sustain that internationally. Here, domestically, I think it's even more basic than that, right? Because I think even the politicians, I think even the decision-making structure, the primary priority is self-preservation, and then party preservation, and then way down, 8th or 9th priority is like make the country a better place, make the country seem like it's a better place than if you get me fired. That's the goal, right? That's the job description, and that's that's America. I hate to say it. I'm gonna drink some coffee. So, again, where does that leave us? Do we want to engage with the system and change it? Fuck, I know a lot of people who've tried. Good luck, man. Those are really big gears. You can throw whatever wrench you want in them. They tend to chew them up and turn them into a gear. Give it a shot, and you got my back. Or I got your back if you do. James Patrick Jr., thank you for the like. That said, if we're not going to jump into the system and change it from the inside, because it'll quite likely change us from the outside, we have to provide an alternative to the system. And whether it's just for ourselves or for others, as I said, it's about creating alternatives and inspiring alternatives. And with all this, the focus is not, I want to create a food distribution system as good as grocery stores, because it ain't going to be. It's that I want people to not freak out and think, oh my God, I'm going to starve to death when the grocery stores close. right? It's about inspiring faith. Because frankly, everyone can grow their own food. It's very fucking easy. The food grows itself, actually. It was happening before humans were alive. We learned to live on, we learned to eat, we evolved to eat what was already growing. So it's very easy to grow food. But none of us knows how, or most of us don't know how anymore. And certainly there's that, it just takes faith. Not just confidence. It's more than confidence, but confidence is a big part of it. And so again, sustaining faith becomes a key function, a more important function than it's ever been. Normally there's such a reservoir of faith in the government, in the dollar, in the institutions, in society, in whatever, that actually everyone feeds on that faith. Yeah, everyone functions under a model of getting what's theirs based on the faith that's out there. And when that faith erodes, when that faith collapses, when that faith evaporates, things start drying up real quick. Things are going to go the other way. And nurturing that small trickle, that small spring of faith in ourselves, in our families, in our communities, in society at large, is so important. I will never try to motivate anyone to abandon a fight that's important. But what I will say is to realize that to keep an eye on how much energy we have. Because if we burn out all our energy in the middle of the fight, we lose the fight, always, no matter what fight. Right? I'm a big boxing fan, some of you guys know. And that's like the classic rookie mistake, is to go way too hard in the beginning and not have enough to finish it. Then you're fucked. Then you definitely will lose. You're probably going to that's how you get knocked out. You're not going to lose by decision. You're just going to get knocked out if you gas out early. And we need to be very mindful that, especially the fights we've been getting into for the past year and a half, are very emotional. And when we are emotional, we move forcefully and we don't restrain ourselves. We use that emotion to drive us. But nonetheless, that emotion drives us but doesn't sustain us, right? We still consume energy by it. And if we consume all our energy before the fight's done, I fucking guarantee you're going to get knocked out. This one is a marathon. This one that's coming is not 6 months. This one is... And there's another one after it, by the way. It's not, well, look, we're going to go through some hard times and then everything's cool. No, the reason you are here listening to this, the reason that you're called to have a spiritual life, the reason that you have your practice, the reason I'm on your radar, or any of the topics we're talking about are on your radar, is for these times that are coming, not for the times that happen. Don't abandon them is the key point. Some people will see these dark times come and say, oh my God, it's all a fucking farce. I believed in all this, and I prayed every day, and I loved and lighted, and I did all this shit, and now look at the world, and it's all a farce. 11/11, by the way, with 11 people watching on Twitch, and 53:11 was the time on the live. It wasn't a farce. It wasn't a farce. The darkness that's coming is the exact reason you're here. No one makes a candle for the daytime. With that said, who wants to meditate? What kind of meditation do you guys want to do today? I'll drink some coffee. Well, then before I cut off, so off the bluff, right? And I guess if you're watching this, right, you're probably not loving light. You might be more hellfire and brimstone. But you better fucking make sure if you run out of hellfire and brimstone, or not even if you run out of the energy or the capacity to transmit the hellfire and brimstone, before it's done, doing what it's supposed to do, you get knocked out. That's why the mode maybe has to refocus, switch a little bit to the sustaining, to the nourishing, to the that simple basic life function. There's a survival mode that we can do. If everything is great, it's very easy to eat 3,000 plus calories a day. If everything is terrible, it's actually not too hard to eat and live on 500 calories a day. The body adjusts, the mind adjusts, the expectations adjust. The priorities It's what it is. The priorities, the alignment, the configuration of the self adjusts to the circumstances. And I think the circumstances of we need to oppose and correct shift to, oh wow, things are being corrected very quickly. We need to sustain lest we be corrected. I think that becomes the slight shift of emphasis in the years to come. In the years to come. And I don't think I hope I'm not fear mongering. I hope I'm not making anyone terrified or forcing people to, oh my God. I hope I'm spreading a message of faith. That's the kind of point, right? Because that's what we got to do for each other. And whether it's, knowledge or skills or physical goods or interaction or human emotion or whatever that we can provide for each other, we need to get over ourselves and start providing it. The fear that we face on those things, it's time to face that fear, because what looms as an alternative to getting over that ego-based fear is far, 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 far worse. I think the alternative I can paint a picture of pretty well. And the alternative looks a lot like everyone being trapped in a 24-hour social media fight, except in virtual reality, as the actual world goes to complete fucking shit. I think there's a solid 40% chance right now that without proper commitment to ourselves, to our neighbors, to our communities, to our families, to our society, to our tribe, whatever that may be for you, whether it's geographically defined, emotionally defined, intellectually defined, ethically defined, whatever that is for you. But if we're not there for each other in the time to come, we're going to be increasingly isolated. The trend will be towards isolation, right? Lockdown was so isolating. And yeah, I can get on a whole other rant on my concerns for futurism. Our message is always, and has been, is end the factionalism. The idea of a vaxxer and an anti-vaxxer, these two different types of human beings, these two different species that are opposed to each other, is completely fucking absurd. They're all frightened people, frightened of different things maybe, but they're not. No one's opposed to each other. A masker and an anti-masker. It's just fucking insane. Everyone's afraid. They're afraid human beings. They're human beings who are terrified of something. To say that your fears are invalid or your fears are invalid or what I'm afraid of, you should be afraid of, this is not rational. But to see that everybody here is a human being who is very stressed and very fucking afraid right now, maybe then we can get a little bit, understand how to support ourselves and one another. But foaming at the mouth, trying to say to the other person, you should know you're afraid of the wrong thing, you should be afraid of this. Maybe let's all be there and say, hey, actually, it's a really scary fucking time right now. Nobody really knows exactly what we should be afraid of, which makes it even scarier. That's why the dark, fear of the dark is fear of what's looming there. That said, let's all try to de-escalate the situation and do what we can to make what we can make less scary. Because, oh boy, it's going to be spooky Halloween this year. I don't know how many of you guys remember 9/11. I've been talking about it a lot, obviously with the anniversary coming up, especially in fucking Afghanistan. But things changed. You could feel it, and that's what I'm feeling now. Like that degree of I don't know. It's like when you're playing with magnets and you reach a point where the pull is like they're gonna pull together. That pull, that strength, that polarity is what I feel, And I was in New York City on 9/11. I worked in Midtown Manhattan on 40th Street, on 6th Avenue and 40th. I had to get out of New York City that day. I just went through, rehashed that story with my parents. I hadn't talked about it since then. It was the first time. And she was traumatic, It was traumatic. Personally, it was traumatic to the public psyche. It changed a lot of shit, right? Dude, there was not military dudes everywhere with hardware on every corner in New York City before that. I never saw that shit in my life. That's normal now. A lot of things like that. And just, boop, that shit's different. Patriot Act, government surveillance, all that. Boop, that's different. And now if you've grown up since then, that's just normal now. and this has happened. Something of that magnitude, a shift of that magnitude, I want to say, is where we're at, and probably like multiples of that. So we need to. The question becomes, how do we prepare ourselves individually, collectively, socially for trials of this sort? And again, I can only come back to faith, keeping the faith alive, keeping the faith alive, keeping the faith alive. The people who lived in the Holocaust and the people who didn't, the biggest difference from family members I've talked to, from others and things like that, is faith. So finding those tools, those resources to keep faith alive, whether that's a favorite scripture. For me, that's what Chuang-Tzu is. You know, no matter how bad everything gets, I know I can read Chuang-Tzu and it will bring me equanimity. I will return to a balanced perspective. It relates to me and reiterates to me universal truths and reminds me of universal truths that are greater than me and greater than the time I'm going through. And in that regard, it restores my faith. You know, again, simple practices, simple relationships, all these things nurture and restore our faith in these times. So with that said, we've got a solid hour here. I haven't looked at any videos, and I think that's good. I think we're going to do a little less videos and a little more talking and conversation. I want to encourage discourse with the audience. I want to encourage you guys to get with us in the chat. Because again, it maybe TED Talks inspire faith, but hopefully this does, the personalness of it does a bit more. That has always been the goal of Holy Mountain, and now with this realization on my plate, all the more so. So that said, let's see who I got in the roll call here. Let's see if it's accurate. Another TV viewer, CityWitch77, Fix Love and Misery Pimp, NyQuil Soze, Robert Paulson 7, Sister Coyote, Smokey Bear 1015, Snow Off the Bluff, Sticky Nine Blade, and What Do Mushrooms Look Like? And David Chen hanging on Facebook. Thanks for tuning in, so I know you're there. We'll move into meditation, guys. I want to give you a challenging meditation exercise. If you're interested, on a scale of 1 to 10, some people type in the chat, what level of meditation are you prepared for? And while we're waiting for that, I want to invite anybody who is similarly stressed or stressed about anything, any of the things I've talked about, or related things or unrelated things, to share your voice. If you want to do it publicly, you're very much invited to. As of right now, I'm going to ask you to put it in the chat, but I will work up a Skype line so you guys can share your voices with the group. I know we used to do the Zoom thing, but for a variety of reasons, Zoom is not germane to what I'm doing. But for now, please put your voices in the chat. And, if you don't want to do it publicly, if you're seeing this in any way, shape, or form, you're invited to reach out to me as we're going through this. NyQuil says 5. Snow Off the Bluff says 11. So we're at an 8 if we average those. Let's get some more voices in the mix. Robert Paulson says 11. Was that 27? So that's actually at a 9. Come on, guys, have some compassion for NyQuil. I'm putting in my vote at a 5, by the way. Sister Coyote's at a 0. Cool. All right, so let's see. I'm a 5. NyQuil's a 5. That's a 10. Oh my God. Plus 22 is 32. Sister Coyote's a 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 32 divided by 5. That's about a 6. 6 difficulty. That sounds about right. Yeah. Yeah, 6 difficulty, gang. All right, 6 difficulty in meditation seems like an even ground. Snow Off the Bluff and Robert Paulson. Maybe we'll do like a advanced meditation group. What I was going to do for the advanced was, City Witch. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. For those who may not see the chat, I've been feeling like I've been losing my fire and faith recently. Happy that I tuned back in today. I'm happy you tuned back in. Look, it's going to get harder. I wish I was here being like, don't worry, you can do this, girl. You got this. Yes, queen. No. It's going to get harder. It's going to get more real. Ironic. I don't want to put this the wrong way, but or I don't want people to mistake what I'm saying here, but more masks are going to come off. I don't necessarily mean the protect us from the virus masks. Things will slip. The gap between what we want and what we got is going to become much more clear. Much more clear. Much more imposing, right? The things that we have been cosplaying, the cosplay convention's going to end. The things that we have really become, we're going to find out we actually are. The things that we were pretending or hoping, we're going to find out we've never been. Does that mean that does that mean that none of us were superheroes because we've all been running around dressed as superheroes in my cosplay metaphor? No, actually, it turns out some of us did develop superpowers. Holy shit. Again, metaphorically. Or maybe not. But it's going to turn out that when the convention ends, most people are just regular people in that metaphor. It's going to turn out that a lot of people were lying. We're deceiving you about who they were. That wasn't actually Spider-Man. Holy shit. Maybe the real Spider-Man was in there, though. Maybe someone got bit by a radioactive spider while they were in there. The metaphors are pretty loose today. Like I said, I've been keeping late hours. So usually they're much tighter. Who we don't want to be, but are, that's about to become very fucking important. Not just obvious, but important. We got to be that. We got to be that because in times of dire stress and survival situations and any situation, again, talking to my elders about the Holocaust, how they survive, you have to use every resource that you have. Whether it's a resource you like or a resource you don't like, you have to use it. If you have it and it's a resource and you don't use it, you're at a worst. Your odds go down. The more resourceful you can be with everything, good, bad, whatever, the more your odds go up. Conjure Chronicles. I just dropped my updates. Yeah, I guess you did miss them, but the recording is ongoing. And of course, this will be up for at least 2 weeks. But big picture, the bad stuff's coming back more complicated and harder, right? Taliban, probably terrorism, COVID, vaccine, right? Everyone needs a new vaccine. The fucking mask debates back at a new level. Probably going to maybe civil unrest. That wouldn't surprise me. Hacking, I think, going to come back. Shit's going to come back. More complicated, harder, more complex, less. Oh, we found the off switch. It's off. All this. So, with all that given out, we're going to move into meditation. We decided we're going to go to 6. And I just want to underscore my last message because I know we have folks in here. I know we have folks who will be watching it on the replay who have given much of themselves to the past 20 years. Particularly now, I'll be straight up. This is for the veterans, like to Afghanistan. Have given much of themselves, have partied with much of that they loved, have had their families, just the sacrifice and the giving and it all being worth it, and this phenomenal sense of what the fuck did I just do? Because none of that shit mattered. And this is true for everybody who's endured trauma over the past. But it's right now I'm speaking especially of the veterans who are having that sentiment, which I've heard among a number of people I've talked to. First of all, know that you're definitely not alone. There's fucking everybody. What did I believe in? What did I fight for? What did I struggle for? What? What did I sacrifice for? What did I lose for? What did he lose for? Why did we lose him for? All that. For the times that are ahead. To make you who you are now, because you are critical to leading us in the times that are ahead. All these people who've spent the past 20 years learning skills that apply to the paradigms and institutions that dominate don't have the skills that you have. don't have the paradigms you have, don't have what you learn to go out in the world and operate where those things don't dominate. And now you're home, and now you have that, and we need that. And we're going to only need that more. So why did all that? Everything you went through, everything you go through has a great deal of purpose. It's not there and it's not then. It's here and it's now and it's coming up. And your value to your fellow community, like, I'll be real, most people don't know how to pitch a tent. I'm not speaking metaphorically. Most people do not know how to make a tent. Most people do not know how to survive outside. Most people don't know how to hunt. Most people don't know any of these things. If you know these things, you're going to help a lot of people. Most people don't know how to lead. Most people don't know how to set an example. Most people don't know how to take care of themselves. In the basic ways. I'm not saying that anybody I've talked to is a completely healed person and is a magically, I fixed myself completely. No. But the basic skills of, like, this is how you hold the weapon. This is how you take the safety off. This is how you sight the weapon. This is how you use the weapon. This is how you dress the deer. This is how you get yourself the meat. A lot of people don't know how to do that. Most people don't know how to do that. And the people who do know how to do that, they have a lot to share, a lot of great value. Things that, again, none of that shit matters when there's grocery stores. But when there's not grocery stores, oh boy, that's important stuff, right? This is how you dress the wound. This is how you pack the wound when there's not a hospital to go through because there's a ransomware attack. This is important information, yeah? So the things that you have carried, have been burdened with, they're all tools that you're going to put out on the table to operate in the next time to come. And know that your service is not over, that's for sure. Your service to the government of the United States is probably over. And honestly, I know there's active duty guys who are going back over there, like literally just got there and are going there tonight. And, like, you guys clearly, you got some time ahead of you. But for guys who are out, vets, your service to the government's done. Your service to the people, that's ongoing. That's just getting started. The Constitution, I hope it survives. I hope that can continue. I frankly can't call that shit. Who knows if we could say that it's even survived to now. But the people, that's just getting started. And those core things, the team building, the leadership, the teaching, the hearts and minds, right? You're not winning hearts and minds for the American government, but focusing on those hearts and minds, keeping those things alive, winning those hearts and minds for the people, for you. And when I say the people, I'm not talking about some popular uprising. I'm talking about for your community, having people's hearts and minds turn towards the community we share. Those skills are very important, and they're going to become more important, and most of us do not have them. And if you've got them, what you suffered through to get them proportionally affects their potency. And I'm not just blowing smoke and trying to fluff and make it like a silver lining shit. I truly like this is what I focus on, what I work on, what I've been thinking about for many months, and very much coming to the head. All right, I promised an easy meditation, and here I am still jabbering. Easy meditation. Let us breath counting. Breath counting is a 6 for me as a basic. So let's see if there's anyone who I don't know has done breath counting, and I'll give instruction on it. Fix Lovin', City Witch, maybe even another. I don't know if you guys have done breath counting for us, or with us, excuse me. So the breath counting method is the introductory method in Zen. It's very straightforward. You'll sit comfortably if you're sitting on the floor. Sit cross-legged if you're sitting in a chair. That's fine. Just set yourself at 90 degrees. Don't cross your legs or ankles or anything like that. Place palms flat on your knees, whether you're on the floor or on a chair. You can close your eyes for this, although your mind may wander. You can also, sort of a more traditional Zen way, is just to allow your eyelids to relax and allow your eyes to go down 45 to 60 degrees. So you're kind of staring down at an angle. And let your eyelids kind of relax. By keeping your eyes just slightly open, sometimes that can help you to be more aware, less prone to letting the mind wander, which is something we want to avoid in this particular exercise. So, with the mind not wandering, we're going to bring it to focus on our breath, and in such a way that we're going to count each breath. So, one breath cycle, in, hold, out, hold, is one breath. So, one breath. That breath cycle counts as one. So the whole time you're doing that, you're going to be thinking one. And the second breath cycle, obviously, you'll proceed to two. And you'll do this all the way up to 9. And then when you get to 9, start back at 1. So a few things might happen in the course of trying to do this relatively simple thing. The first is that you don't stop at 9, right? You find you're at 10 or 11 or 12. This means your mind has wandered, your focus has wandered. No problem. Start back at 1. The first time I learned this, I don't think I got even up to 9, because the second thing happens, which is your mind wanders to something else. All of a sudden you notice you're not thinking about your breath or your counting, but you're thinking about something else. So you've lost count in a way, back to 1. Or even if you've maintained your count, but you've lost your focus on your count, be honest with yourself and audit yourself on this. Back to 1. Okay? So the goal is to get to 9, start back at 1, to 9, back to 1, and we'll go 10 minutes. Usually you do about, I think, 6 rounds in about 10 minutes. Depends on how fast you breathe and count and all that stuff, how long your pauses are, all that good stuff. Sorry, I just got a text from Ed. Expands on exactly what we're thinking about. So let me pull the timer up here. Clock. 10 minutes. All right, guys. So here's, let me make sure, first of all, I see Robert Paulson saying he hasn't done the breath counting, so make sure everyone kind of has the instructions here. So it's very simple. We're just going to focus on the breath. Keep maintaining your focus just on the number, whether you focus on the sound of the number, the visual of the number, the concept of the number, however that works for you. Ideally, maybe all of them at once or none of them at once, or playing with different things, but just focusing on 1 through 9, 1 through 9, 1 through 9. And any deviation from that, just start back at 1 and try to do it again perfectly. It can be very challenging, can be very easy. A lot of things come into play here. Hopefully I hit about a 6 difficulty for everyone. Looks like we have no questions forthcoming in the chat. We are not going to do theta waves for this because they tend to bring the mind to a place that's less focused, more creative. So we're going to want to, since we're focusing here, we're going to just work with silence. I'm going to turn my mic off for it, so it's just going to be dead air, which is obviously not how you're supposed to do meditation, or how you're supposed to do streaming, but it is how you're supposed to do meditation. So we're going to have dead air in here. We're going to be meditating. If you're just tuning in, during that, you'll probably be a little bit confused, but I think for everyone here, we're fine. So with that said, I have my timer ready. I see no questions forthcoming in the chat. I'm going to kill the mic, start the timer, and I'll talk to you in 10. So that's about 10 minutes of breath counting, gang. How was that meditation for everyone? That one, like I said, that's considered a very introductory meditation. It's probably the first one I learned, actually. But it can be very, very challenging. Many levels of depth to it. Because you can, once you have the concept down, and maybe we'll just practice it over the week, now you really start focusing on where you're bringing your breath. Where you're really making sure you're breathing down into here, breathing down into your lower dantian, in your belly. And when you're bringing your breath there, hara in Japanese, it shifts your consciousness too, where you get a whole different thing happening. I fell in NyQuil cells. Had to repeat the count a lot more than I've ever had to, but I fell in towards the end. Yeah, I fell in, I feel like the last 2-3 cycles I was like deep. Snow off the bluff. It was tricky. Brain feels massage though. It's, with all these exercises, they're all meditations are exercises, right? They're all the different exercises of the mind and the spirit. And so we do all these different ones, and it gives us a very balanced progression, right? We have all these different skills. We don't want to be imbalanced, have one skill stronger than the other. So this one's a good one, because it's very simple, but at the same time, it can be very, very hard. All you got to do is breathe and count to 9. Theoretically, a toddler could do it, but it's hard. So with that said, deep breath. Exhale, bring it back up from your lower nervous system. Deep breath. Why 9? And it's just the Zen. Because it's natural to complete the cycle to 10 out of natural. If you're not paying attention, it's easy to slip into 10, and that's how you know. It could be 5, right? But 9 seems like a good one where if you're gonna lose your attention, you'll count to 10, and then you've lost it. So, drawing into ourselves and opening ourselves to this moment, to the full vibrance of this moment that we're in, and the moments to come. Receiving into ourselves the capacities developed, the history developed, the person and the spirit developed in the times that we have passed through. Let us be grateful. Let us be receptive. Let us be open. Let us be attuned to the totality of the moment for ourselves individually and for our fellow creatures. Let us be gleefully aware, eagerly aware of our role. Let us pledge ourselves to the role. Let us prepare ourselves. Let us find in ourselves and in our preparation thus far a constant source of faith that drives us to further prepare ourselves and to assist the preparation of others, to assist even more. To face all challenges, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, that we may have before us. To nurture ourselves, to nurture others, to nurture those who cannot nurture themselves. Let us rely then upon the totality of circumstances that have come to embody themselves in us, the chain of causes that have named us as their effects. Let us realize that we here together can and do interact harmoniously to bring about the next magnitude of effect. And let us do so with a conscientiousness and an intention whereby we come into attunement with one another, we come into synchrony with one another and the needs of the moment freely and readily, without stress or strain, that it doesn't disturb us or bounce us violently along our way, but rather that we are pulled gravitationally, easily, and that we come into our proper place at our proper time and come to reside in that faith, come to reside in that knowledge that we do not suffer anguish or stress or anxiety over our transiting and our turning, knowing that we move in perfect orbits. Let us give our thanks and our blessing for these things, because with them we have our certainty, we have our faith well established, we have our courses made clear, we have our resources laid before us and placed into our hands, we have the road open before our feet. And so we proceed, knowing these things to be true, knowing ourselves to be thus enabled to bring that mindfulness to all of creation. And with that, let us all say, Amen. Citywitch 77, I had tears, not crying, but tears. Feel better though. Me too. I had a lot of tears, but not crying, but tearing hard. That can definitely happen with that meditation. So as always, I want to thank everyone and bless everyone who is here. I thank you. I bless you. I love you. Love each other. Bless each other. Thank each other. Another TV viewer, Citywitch 77, Fix Love and Misery Pimp, Morning One Star, NyQuil Soze, Robert Paulson 7, Sister Coyote, Snow Off the Bluff, Sticky Nine Blade, What Do Mushrooms Look Like? Also, big shout outs and thanks to James Patrick Jr., Smokey Bear 1015, David Chen, Madison D'Amico, and Joe McDonald for the likes, the follows, all that good stuff. Thank you all for supporting me. Thank you for supporting these broadcasts. Thank you for supporting each other. We'll be here tomorrow